and I appreciate the opportunity. I thank you for being here with us today. This is a three-part series to support the Center for Restorative Justice. My name is Manuel Arevalo, and I appreciate the opportunity to be part of this event. I am a senior sociology major at California State University, Long Beach, a Marine Corps veteran, and a Alpha Kappa Delta member. Um, the Center for Restorative Justice Works, CRJW, is a nonprofit organization committed to promoting a more just and equitable criminal justice system. CRJW works through education, advocacy, and a community-based programs to support individuals and families affected by the criminal justice system and promote just criminal justice reform. This webinar series is in collaboration with AKD Society, aims to explore the history of incarceration and its impact on communities, as well as to promote a conversation about the path towards a more restorative and equitable criminal justice system. The purpose of Alpha Kappa Delta is to seek to acknowledge and to promote excellence in the scholarship in the study of sociology, the research of social problems, and such other social and intellectual activities. As well, will lead into improvement in the human condition. Alpha Kappa Delta is a non-secret democratic international society of scholars dedicated to the ideal of anthropon katamethian diakosin, or to investigate humanity for the purpose of service. Their ideals embody the philosophy of CRJW and its service to incarcerated families. I will now hand over to Manny Gomez.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Manuel. My name is Manny Gomez. I'm a board member and a panelist for today's event. You'll hear a little bit about myself later on in the bios of our panelists. The Center for Restorative Justice Works is a transformative organization dedicated to promoting restorative justice principles with the focus on comprehensive approaches. CRJW has made a significant impact. Its staff has traveled over 4.5 million miles to 17 prisons across California, making over 15,000 family connections in the last 20 years. Through programs like Get on the Bus, Family Express, and Stay Connected projects, CRJW fosters healing, reconciliation, and growth within correctional institutions and communities. Committed to responsible financial stewardship and transparency, CRJW envisions a future where compassion and understanding prevail in our justice system, empowering individuals to rebuild their lives and restore relationships. Through our programs such as Get on the Bus, Family Express, and Stay Connected projects, we provide vital support, facilitate healing conversations, and offer resources that promote reconciliation and growth by engaging children, incarcerated individuals, and volunteers. We create spaces for understanding, empathy, and connection. We are proud to have served numerous correctional institutions and communities, recognizing that true transformation happens when we work together. I am a result of that progress, and I am an example of that transformation. Our commitment to responsible financial stewardship, transparency, and partnerships enables us to sustain our impactful initiatives and reach even more individuals in need. At CRJW, we believe that everyone deserves second chances, and we are dedicated to empowering individuals to rebuild their lives, restore relationships, and contribute positively to society. By embracing restorative justice principles, we envision a future when healing and transformation will prevail over punishment and judgment. I will now transition it over back to Manuel, who will be our moderator during our question and answer session.
Thank you, Manny. I'd like to introduce our panelists. Um, we have Liz Rios, has been with the Center of Restorative Justice Works since August of 2019, where she started as the program coordinator for Get on the Bus. Liz now serves as executive director for the Center of Restorative Justice Works, a nonprofit organization that connects and reunites children and families with their incarcerated loved ones. Throughout the state of California, Liz, an East Los Angeles native, grew up in a close-knit community highly impacted by crime and the criminal justice system. As a child, Liz was separated from her father for several years as he served time in prison. Liz later earned her degree in sociology from Long Beach State University, where she learned about the numerous complexities of the prison system. Liz's personal understanding of the impacts of incarceration paired with her education led her desire to serve system impacted community members. Manuel Gomez is a resilient advocate for change whose life experiences have shaped him into an inspiring individual. He served in the Navy for 5 years, but unfortunately ended up incarcerated due to his military service. During his time in prison, he confronted and conquered addiction, maintaining sobriety for over 8 years. Today, Manuel serves as a board member for CRJW. His family were participants of the program in 2018. He is currently pursuing a master's in social work degree at California State University, Long Beach. Manuel is deeply passionate about affecting positive change in the field and beyond his academic pursuits. Manuel cherishes his role as a loving husband of 17 years and a proud father of 4 children. His personal experiences have instilled him a profound understanding of the significance of family, resilience, and second chances. Through sharing his story of redemption and personal growth, he aims to inspire others and advocate for criminal justice reform, addiction recovery, and the transformative power of education. We also have John Clement, is a highly motivated individual with a strong desire to succeed. Having spent many years as an incarcerated individual, John has successfully completed truck driver school and is now pursuing higher education at Long Beach City College, where he is in the process of earning a business degree. His goal is to use this knowledge to become a successful entrepreneur and a small business owner. Additionally, he intends to expand his education to include stock market and accounting education. John's passion for creating housing for formerly incarcerated individuals has led him to pursue real estate with the goal of creating housing for individuals just starting out. He plans to pitch his idea to entities such as Homeboy Industries, as he understands the major stumbling block housing can be for formerly incarcerated and recovering individuals. John's personal experience with child custody issues post incarceration has given him unique insights into the collaborative consequences of justice system. Mary CRJ Mary is a CRJ participant who is an incarcerated loved one who is an LWOP and has utilized CRJW for the past decade or more. I'd like to start asking a few questions for Manny and John. Um, why is it important to foster and maintain family relationships for individuals involved in the justice system? And how does this contribute to their overall well-being and rehabilitation?
Thank you so much, Manuel, for that question. Really quick, John is stuck in traffic right now, so he might be a little bit late. But it's important to foster and maintain family relationships for individuals because, first of all, it eradicates the intergenerational cycle of incarceration. A lot of times, children of those who are incarcerated have a higher percentage rate of being incarcerated. So, being able to foster those positive relationships through visits, such as the ones that Get on the Bus provides, allows the children to see their parents and loved ones as humans and as individuals who made a mistake, and they are not uh, blinded by some of the perceptions of society that are imposed on those that are incarcerated. So that's why it's so important for us to really be involved in have fostering a positive relationship. Like for example, for me, it was really important to let my children know that I made a mistake, but I also had the ability to change and to become a better person, and that I was only on essentially a temporary timeout. But allowing them to see me through like a visit and being able to see me through Get on the Bus really cemented that because they saw me as a person rather than as somebody just in blues, right? And while I was incarcerated, visits was critical to all of us. That's what we always looked for, week in and week out, right? The better we had a visiting system within the incarcerated space, the safer it was. Individuals really wanted to motivate themselves to rehabilitate themselves, to change their lives and change their ways, because they were reminded on a weekly basis of what they had waiting for them on the outside. They had their family, they had their loved ones. So it ensured that the facility itself was safe. That's the biggest thing that's important for us to make sure that we maintain those family relationships. Thank you so much for that question.
Yeah. Thank you, Manny. Additionally, could you tell us how incarceration impacted your family and how knowledge of CRJW could have supported you?
Yeah, definitely. I wish I would have known about CRJW at the beginning of my prison sentence. I didn't discover CRJW towards until the end, right? I was arrested on my daughter's birthday. She was completely devastated to see her dad pulled away by the police on one of her most special days with no explanation. When I was engaged in my criminal activity, I really kept it to myself. It was a huge surprise. They saw somebody going to nursing school, but they never realized that when I was in school, it's when I was in the middle of my addiction and doing this deviant activity, this criminal activity that led to my incarceration. So when they took me away on her birthday, it was a huge surprise for the family, completely unexpected. They didn't know what was happening. And at that time, in my ignorance, I didn't understand that I should have been honest to my children about my incarceration. But for the first 2 to 3 years, we told them that I was had to go on a military mission. I'm prior military, so it was something believable for them as little kids. But if I would have known about CRJW at the inception of my incarceration, I would have known the importance of being in your family honest and open. It would have drastically have helped their mental health and overall well-being. I've been home 4 years and I can still see sometimes the impact of my incarceration and some of the trust I have towards officers and the trust I have just the systems in general. So if CRJW would have been there for me at the inception, it would have radically changed my family. However, when I did discover CRJW, it really, really made a difference in my children's families. My daughter still has the backpack she got on that visit in 2018. They still talk about it when we do events. They're still a part of it because it made such a difference in their lives. I hadn't seen my children in almost 4 years, and I was working in the chapel. I saw this flyer, and it literally like I felt like I won the lottery in prison, knowing that there was a possibility for me to see my family. I was in Folsom State Prison. I'm from LA. It was extremely expensive for us to uh, facilitate a visit that far. CRJW took away all that expense, took away all the worry. Basically, all my wife had to do was just go to a meeting point, get on a bus, and everything was taken care of for her, right? Being on that bus, my children finally felt who they were. They could be honest. They didn't have to hide about having a dad who was incarcerated. Everybody on that bus had the same condition. Everybody was going through the same thing. So they felt a little semblance of normalcy. That's the beauty that CRJW did. And it would be so important for us to be able to expand it to more prisons because we only work in a limited amount of prisons, right? But being able to expand and fundraise for this organization would allow us to expand and have more accessibility and maybe, one day have more visits, because right now we only do it usually once a year because it's a very cost intensive service that we love to do and we love to support. But as we all know, sometimes in the world, money is needed to do certain things. So that's why it's important to bring awareness to them. I am so thankful to CRJW. They radically changed my life. They're the reason I became sober because when I saw my family, I realized the path that I was leading, and if I continued down that path, I would have probably have been still incarcerated. That day I changed my life. I started going to school, started going to programs, started really working towards getting home. So I'm so thankful for the impact it did in my family.
Thank you, Manny. Um, Pivoting to Liz, could you tell us what strategies or programs have you seen that effectively support eradication of generational trauma within families affected by the justice system, and how these initiatives promote healthier relationships and break the cycle of trauma?
Thank you, Manuel. If I can pass this along to Crystal, she is our Get on the Bus program director. And I would really love to hear her perspective on this. She works very, very closely with our families and the prisons, but I'll give Crystal the floor for this one.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's very lovely to be here. And answering the question first, wanting to go off of the very impactful story that Manny just shared. We're very, it's so interesting how simple it is. The fact that you just get to see your family, the fact that you get to sit in a room with them. And when we when we go to other institutions and have this event, the reoccurring statement, which is, I guess, interesting to always hear from the officers who are there as they're in the visiting room with us, is hearing how they see the men there or the women there in more human perspective. So it also is something that, you know, children have this ability to see their own parents in that very human perspective, exactly as Manny had said it, that he was a person, he wasn't just a guy that was doing some time. The ability to be able to have that community and that family connection repeatedly across the board with all of our families, we have heard how impactful and necessary it was in order to even reignite that family relationship. Just as the story that Manny had shared, that is unfortunately not uncommon for our children and for our parents, where randomly it just happens suddenly, and an important event, or one of the a child having to wait and wonder, why am I not getting picked up from school, suddenly to just get picked up by a police car to go home. So these very traumatizing moments of not having that connection is not just, it is a lifelong impact. So there are many moments that we have had dads and moms share with us that if it wasn't for the ability to have their kids come to the visit, the kids would have never wanted to really see them, unfortunately. So the biggest example that I can think of, when we had went to Salinas Valley State Prison, we had received a survey response from one of the dads sharing that in the past, my child did not really ask about me, didn't really want to visit, was so just afraid of what was going on. And now that we had this opportunity to come together in a family-friendly environment, mind you, because a visit is very different from what it is that the program is providing. A visit is very restrictive, is very cold at times, but the ability to remember and feel like you are a family is something that leaves a lifelong impact. That family connection, that love, is something that really, really starts this process, exactly as what Manny had described. The process of saying, I want to make my life better for myself and for my children. And the children are very receptive to this, this change in behavior as well. So we have seen a lot of points after 20 years of having this program, exactly as Manny has come back after years of doing exactly what he was hoping to do after coming back to even CRJW, because there is such an importance to sustaining this ability to have a family-friendly experience, of being able to do face painting, of reading together, of being able to hold each other. Physical contact is very, very important to healing. So we definitely see that because of the family, again, family-friendly, a family-friendly environment that we try to create, that is something that is so crucial to feeling comfortable to even have these tougher conversations, or maybe in the moment not trying to maybe not think about it necessarily, and just being able to experience and hug each other. There were moments at the prison where we just see a child sleeping on their parents' lap, And that's a portion of the visit, and that's it. And that's all that they need. That's all the child needs, is to be able to hold, is to be able to, I know it sounds silly to even smell their parent, just like being able to experience being with them is very healing. So I hope that that was an okay answer. I will pass it back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Crystal. Hello, John. Thank you for joining us. Wanted to ask you a quick question on how your visiting experience was during your incarceration.
So like I didn't get visits very much, right? And like I think if I had gotten more visits with my children, like I wouldn't be estranged from my children today, right? Like my oldest daughter, like she feels like I abandoned her. And there's truth in that, right? Like, because I made the choices to go to prison instead of making the choice to be a father. But like if I had had that time to explain to her, and even had that time to like take in what I had lost, then like things might have been different. As far as like the family dynamics, again, like I think that like I wouldn't be estranged from my mother today, right? Like prison put so much distance between us. And when I got out, like trying to deal with and process those emotions of frustration and resentments from being gone, and trying to fill gaps that just can't be filled. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what can I say? Like, it's had a big negative impact. And like I said, I don't blame nobody but myself. But like I said, with visits, things definitely could have been much different.
Thank you for sharing, John. Mary, could you tell us your personal experience with CRJW and how it has helped your family? Mary, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. I'm
No
new
worries.
to computers. So, but thank you
Alright.
for asking me to do this. Our story's a little bit different. When my daughter was arrested, her children were quite young. They were a little over a year and not even 2 months old. So this is all they've known in their lives. So when we were able to get on the bus, they were 3 and 4. So they didn't know they were going to a prison. They just knew they were going to go see mommy. And it was a long drive. She was in Chow. And we just made it a big day. You know, it was fun. She was able to, you know, hold her kids and play and run. And the opportunities that we've had and the relationships that she has with her children because of this program are irreplaceable. You know, there's just nothing that I can say but good about this program. We have used this program monthly when everything, you know, from the very beginning. I guess we've been using the Get on the Bus for 15, 16 years. So we would go once a month. We would meet the bus, and so the guards, when you have little ones, they treat you differently. They do. They're very kind, and I'm very thankful for that. There was I guess my granddaughter was about 5 at the time, and we were checking out, and she asked one of the guards, you know, when do the mommies get to come home? And she answered her so kindly, and she says, well, it's different for every mommy. And it was just the kindness that they had. It is a different atmosphere when you're having a family visit, you know, because they see kids, they see the families as just the prisoner. You know, they see a difference in the relationships and how they're not just that crime. They don't represent just that crime. They're human. There's a humanity to that person incarcerated at that time by their families. And we are so thankful that we are able to be a part of this program. It's, you know, the kids are now 18 and 19, and it's, you know, they have a real good relationship with their mom because of this program. And other things, of course, you know, she really does put herself out there, but this has helped a lot to make that happen. And I thank you very much for this opportunity to answer that.
Thank you for sharing, man.
Mm-hmm.
Mary. John, from your perspective, what are some key factors or resources needed to support individuals and families in their journey towards healing, breaking the cycle of generational trauma, and maintaining a healthy family relationships after experiencing incarceration?
So I think therapy and empowerment, right? Therapy, man, just to deal with all the trauma on both ends, family and on those that have been incarcerated, right? Because like Crystal said earlier, like children go through traumatic things when their parents get locked up, right? And like I think it's been psychologically proven that unless a person heals from a traumatic experience, that trauma will manifest itself in other areas of their lives. And like, so like therapy comes in with the families because, like, let's say like the incarcerated person's partner, like he or she has resentments, and in my experience, until I learned how to get past and heal from and let go of my resentments and heal from the thing that was actually hurting me, like I always acted out towards that person, right? Like we could never have a healthy relationship because I held on to unhealthy things. And like the empowerment comes in teaching the incarcerated that like their self-worth, right? And their self-esteem, that, like, you know what I mean, like they're more than just a number, and they're more than the crime that they committed, and that they can do it, right? It's not going to be easy, but like they can do it, right? If we can teach them to believe in themselves, and if we can help the families understand to be supportive, then, like, man, nothing's impossible, right? Like achieving healthy family dynamics is man, it's not impossible, in my opinion.
Thank you, John. Liz, I'd like to ask you the same question. Just what are your perspective on key factors and resources needed to support individuals and families in their journey towards healing, and as well breaking the generational trauma, maintaining healthy relationships with their families and that have experienced incarceration?
Sure. Thank you, Manny. You know, to echo what John just mentioned, of course, I truly believe having mental health resources for our families, or our system impacted families, and our incarcerated loved ones, right? It's a whole family unit thing that we have to put effort into supporting in terms of mental health. And, you know, I say this because, well, I'm one of those people that thinks everyone needs mental health support because everything is just so challenging these days. But in terms of our system impacted families, from personal experience, You know, I was 10 when my dad went to prison, and very similar to John, I am the flip side of that. I didn't have Get on the Bus or services like it. My dad was in prison for about 8 years or so. And in that time, I saw him once. And it was, of course, the reason that a lot of our families struggle to have visits. We didn't have resources for transportation. We didn't even have a reliable car. We didn't even have the funds to accept a collect call for my dad. So I had no communication during that time, right? So, and I mention this because, you know, this was a long time ago, few decades ago. And I still think about this and look at the work that I'm doing now. So it clearly had a significant impact in my life. So with that, you know, there's something we need to have these support services. That's one thing. The second part, of course, is family connection. Family reunification is critical. We have overwhelming research that tells us that visitation alone reduces recidivism significantly for the incarcerated loved one, right? But also it helps our children and our families. You know, I can give you the numbers that you can probably research yourself. How likely is a child of an incarcerated parent to become incarcerated themselves? You know, it's 6 times more likely. So already, you know, folks like me, we already have a short end of the stick, right? So supporting, having those family visitations, to John's point, you are probably initiating or maintaining a relationship with your loved one. I didn't have that. And much like John, I don't have a relationship with my dad now. I truly believe in my heart that if we had something in place, like Get on the Bus, to have some communication, to have that support, I think things would be very different. So, you know, just to kind of surmise that is mental health support for the entire family unit, and also family reunification services, visitation, and of course, like I said, that benefits the children and the incarcerated parents. So, and the family unit overall. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Um, just additionally, I know you mentioned the long term, but from your observation, is there any significant long-term benefits or positive outcomes when individuals are able to restore and rebuild relationships with their families after experiencing incarceration, in terms of breaking the cycle, generational trauma, and contributing to their successful reintegration into society?
Absolutely. So I'll speak on I'll put my work hat on now. But because we've been providing these services for over 20 years, a lot of the families that we serve have been using our programs. We do have multiple programs. You know, historically, we've had, aside from Get on the Bus, we had Family Express, which was a program that provided, and I think Mary touched on this earlier, we provided monthly visitation to the women's institutions. We had Camp Suzanne as well, which was a week-long program that took place at CCWF. So, you know, children can have a week-long quality time with their moms. So because we've had these programs in place for a while, we see a lot of these families come back. And overwhelmingly, they will tell us that, you know, the program has really made a huge impact, a positive impact in their lives, because it's allowed them to maintain communication, to maintain a relationship with their incarcerated loved one. One of the things you know, that we hear often, of course, one of the complaints is that we don't have enough trips throughout the year. Manny mentioned this earlier. It is pretty costly because of the transportation aspect, particularly now, you know, gas is a little pricier than it was before the pandemic. So it is challenging for us to have multiple trips throughout the year, but we do provide stay connected stuff for families to stay engaged and connected. So we provide letter writing materials to both families and the incarcerated loved ones. So letter writing can be a form of communication. One thing I'll touch on letter writing is that was the only way I was able to communicate with my dad. And I recently found the letters, and by recently, I'm talking about like 6 months ago, I found all the letters that he had wrote, and it was just, it was a treasure box. So aside from the communication aspect, it becomes a keepsake, right? So keeping families connected really does make a huge impact. Anecdotally speaking, you know, from what we've seen in our surveys and what we hear from our families, it's absolutely critical. Especially now, you know, fortunately, our incarcerated loved ones and families can now have free phone calls since January 1st, and that has been absolutely amazing. That's what we need more of. We need more communication. We need more of these video visits that our loved ones can have with their families, right? So just having that communication, that connection is absolutely critical. And that is a way that we're going to be able to push through this and beat this, because it'll keep families connected, right? So that's my 2 cents about that. Thank you, Manny.
Thank you, Liz. Crystal, as well, in your work, have you observed any significant long-term benefits or positive outcomes when individuals are able to restore and rebuild relationships with their families after experiencing incarceration, in terms of, again, breaking that generational trauma?
Oh, of course. I definitely have seen stories, or I've seen it even starting within the visiting room, if I'm being honest. I believe that it is really important for the work to continue on. The families themselves have experienced far too much. I think it's sometimes underappreciated how much stress and anxiety and depression that this can bring to children's self-esteem, the men and the women's self-esteem, the way that they perceive how they can move forward, and everything about themselves is really impacted by the way that we handle our incarceration and the way that we handle our justice system. So being able to simply know that there is, I guess, one of the big things that I am realizing is being able to know that somebody is waiting for you, being able to know that somebody wants to be with you, somebody does want to have this relationship with you, but it's this unfortunate circumstance that is kind of thrusted upon the children and on the family. It's very painful. So I have seen in moments where the generational trauma has started to heal. I'll pause for a little bit to think. I'm trying to think of good stories, and there's so many moments between our families while they're in the visiting room. The biggest one that I can think of is, it sounds really simple, but I know that just because I saw that there was a family at CMC when we were, as the staff and the volunteers were in the back serving the food and the snacks. I remember seeing it was a dad with his daughter. I think his daughter was like 12, 13, maybe in her teens. And they walked up together to get the snacks and the food. And then as they were walking back to their table together, they just had the same walk, the same swagger, the same, like, the way that they held their body, they moved their arms, they moved their legs. Like, I don't think, I think it's crucial for us to really understand and appreciate that what we are born into, or what it is that, even though the cards are not fair, that it's sometimes a very unfair hand that was dealt. That love and that relationship it's not that it's still there. The biggest realization that I've had is we hear all these stereotypes, as somebody had mentioned, we hear all these stereotypes about the type of people that are incarcerated, the stereotypes of how they are going to behave when they leave, and all these things, and all of that. For these children, it doesn't matter, that's still dad. that's still mom, that's still grandpa, that's still somebody that I love, that I want to be connected with, that raised me, that was a part of my life. That doesn't go away. Then that it might be altered, it might be impacted by what happens, but that feeling, that doesn't go away. So being able to have those connecting moments, whether it be just as simple as getting up and getting food together, that can be the start of something greater down the line. And at times it's really in the moment, you see the whole room just change. I think from a personal experience, I will be transparent that I don't have experience with incarceration in my family, but you can 100% be aware and present in the change that this moment is happening when you're with the families in the room, witnessing. I'll just give another example of when at CMC again, there was a young girl who was waiting for her grandpa to come out. Her grandpa had raised her pretty much, that was her dad. And so he was waiting and getting processed out. And she saw him through the glass window, because there's the door, there's a hallway, and then the men have to get processed out, or processed, and then they can come out to the visiting room. And we got to see his face, and the way that her face just started, in a way, it was like this bittersweet moment of she was elated that he was there, but also pained because I don't know why, but it was taking a really long time to process him out. So just that painful anticipation of, I just want to hug you, I want to hold you. And so when he finally had finished his processing, or they had finished processing him, came out, and she just ran to him, and just like the hug that they gave each other of, I miss you and I love you, was really impactful. And so it's I think that would be a wonderful thing to have us really research into, of like getting if families are comfortable doing these follow-up of like, how are you doing? But it's just, that in that moment, as we say today, a core memory was made. So it's I guess for me, I want to be able to speak more of what it is that's actually changing. And I'll be honest, I don't know if I know enough yet to really emphasize what it is that's happening, but I do at least know in that moment there is something that is being healed, just because after years of separation, you finally just get to see their face and just to hold them. So I think that's what I've seen so far. And I really do think that it changes everybody fundamentally, volunteers and staff alike. I always tell staff, I don't know, I feel like I become a different person every time we're done with an event. So if that's how I feel, and I don't have any sort of impact, and personally, I can't imagine how deep, just as you guys are describing, John and Manny, how deep that feeling is for them. But I know something is happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. I'd like to welcome Charisma Moreno, who is Manny's wife. I'd like to ask you about your participation and your experience in the program.
Hi, how are you? So it's kind of last minute thing. Somebody put me here, but I couldn't be prouder to be here. And I hope a lot of people get to see this, maybe not today, but later on. So my experience. So first off, obviously as a single mom, it's very tough to just make ends meet overnight when your husband suddenly leaves. Also explaining to the kids, suddenly you don't have a dad anymore. Or, I mean, you have a dad, but why he's absent. And also explaining why we don't get to go see him, whatever the story is that everybody uses for letting the kids know that dad's not around or mom's not around. For me, it was the military. Manny used to be in the military, so we use that story as dad was suddenly called into deployment, but then that deployment got a little bit longer because of politics inside, if I'm allowed to say that. It was supposed to be a short trip and it got a little bit elongated and then again and then again. So eventually I had to explain to the kids that dad was away. In the middle of his incarceration, I was diagnosed with cancer. So that became another burden, not just financially, but emotionally. So as it was already hard for me to make ends meet. The thought of having to even save money while I'm missing work because I have all this doctor's appointment. It was very difficult times. So even to have to think about saving money to go see Manny, I mean, that wasn't even a possibility. But it was very important for me to try to get the kids to see their dad, because even though the number sounds really small, 5 years, when you're a kid, it's an eternity. And as most of us know, the first 6 years of life for a kid are so important developmentally. So they were, even though I try to keep them in touch through letters and phone calls as much as I could afford, there was a gap in connection in the relationship because I couldn't afford to take them to see him. I'm down here and he was in Folsom, so it was pretty far. Anyway, sorry, kind of reminiscent, a lot of things are coming to my mind. But the point is that if it wasn't for Get on the Bus, like I said, I had cancer, and thank God I'm here today to share with you guys that experience, but we didn't know what the case was going to be. As for any cancer survivor, it could go either way. So thanks to Get on the Bus, I was able to take the kids to see Manny for the first time. And I didn't know if it was going to be the last for me, at least. So you can only imagine the emotional roller coaster that it was for me, and how thankful I was to be able to participate on Get on the Bus, because to me, it didn't mean just building a relationship, but like I said, being able to say maybe goodbye to my husband and hand over the kids per se, in case it was going to be him taking care of them when he came back. But anyways, that wasn't the case. But still, Get on the Bus, it's not only about the economic part of it, or building relationships, but it really makes you feel human again. As Crystal was talking about, the way the families are welcome, the way they're made feel like you're not ostracized from society because somebody you love made a mistake. You're you again. You have a name. You're not just the child or the wife of somebody who made a mistake. Because it's very difficult for you to find a support system in which you're not judged about it, or you're not, when you have somebody that you love that made that kind of a mistake that makes them end up where they're at, it kind of becomes your mistake too, even though you probably didn't participate, or even if you did, they judge you for that. But when you're with these families, not just you, but it was some of the few times that my kids got to share that their dad was also in prison, and it was okay. They didn't have to ask mom, is it okay that they know? And not that I kept them from telling people, but they just felt comfortable. They felt accepted. There was a community where they got to see that they're more than just the child of somebody who's in prison, but that you also have goals and you have dreams, and what you're feeling when you think is valid, and that we're part of a society. We're not just this thing that we needs to be hidden away. So yeah, definitely Get on the Bus. It meant so much more to me. I'm not saying that it didn't mean a lot to those that participate, but for us it was life-changing.
Thank you so much for sharing. John, what advice would you give to organizations, individuals who are seeking to prioritize the importance of family relationships and address generational trauma within the justice system?
So again, like I said therapy earlier, but like I agree with Liz, man. Like mental health has mental health has had like one of the most profound effects on my mindset and on my perspective, right? Like if it weren't for mental health and therapy, like I wouldn't be here today. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be in this group. I wouldn't, if I was free, I'd still be on drugs, out there committing crimes, or I'd be in prison, right? And so like I think mental health and therapy and breaking the stigmatism of like especially for males, breaking the stigmatism of being in touch with our emotions, right? Like I think like for me those were huge, right? Because um like not to not to like you know like get sympathy, but like I started going to prison to juvenile halls when I was 14, and I went to juvenile hall for murder. I accidentally killed a friend, and 9 days later my friend's family came back and murdered my brother, right? So um like you can imagine like the guilt and the shame that I carried for years. But like I said, through therapy and intensive trauma therapy, like 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 I'm able to grow into a new person. But I believe that like you said, to break the generational cycle, right? Like I said earlier, like if trauma isn't addressed and healed, then for me, like I act out in other areas of my life. And I think that's true for most people, if not all. And so like if we can address that trauma and kind of have that mind shift and be conscious of like, hey, why am I doing this? And like the consequences behind doing this and the consequences of like, well, if I do this, then like I'm out of like I'm getting out of my peaceful place, right? Like I'm getting out of this place that I work so hard to get to, right? Like for me, that's that's been the whole like that's just been my whole focus, man, because like it took me a while, man, to get past like my ego. But like I came to understand that it was my ego that continued to get me into the circumstances to go back to jail, right? And I came to understand that like once I was able to put my ego aside, like life just became so much easier. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have to I don't have to live up to this self proclaimed image that I thought I had to live up to, right? Like I don't. And um like I can pass that on to my son, right? Like if I get or when I get reunited with my son, like and I see like he's like going the way, if he's going the way of like the street crowd, like I can try and get through to him, as opposed to me, like I didn't have that, right? Like I come from a family of criminals and drug addicts, and being a criminal and a drug addict, like that's, you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to sit here and say it was like they applauded me for doing it, but like, you know what I mean? Like I had no other example, you know what I mean? Um, and so like if we can teach the parents, and then the parents can pass it on to their children, like I think that would be huge in breaking that gap. And also like if the children see like, well, my mother or my father was doing this, but they're not doing this no more, and like the overall dynamics of our family have improved, right? Then that's clear enough for the child, man, because children aren't stupid, right? You know what I mean? Like I've never met a dumb child in my life, right? um and so like I said, like it's just about like mental health and addressing traumas and like learning a new way. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Um, for Manny and Liz, I'd like to start with Manny. What advice would you give organizations, policymakers, or individuals who are seeking to prioritize the importance of family relationships and address generational trauma within the justice system with the goal of promoting healing, rehabilitation, and resilience?
Man, it's hard to follow John. It's like I get emotional every time I hear him. So but like John, I come from a family where my dad, suffered with addiction. He was an alcoholic, and I saw him going in and out of county jail, the DUIs, and that was normalized in my life. So when I started doing, drugs and started, going through my addiction, like I didn't really have this moral compass to really understand that what I was doing was wrong and was really catastrophic, not only to myself, but to my family. So it's really important for us to understand the importance that us as individuals and as parents, the impact that we can have for our children, not going through school and understanding a little bit of psychology. I see that sometimes our children, they watch us more than they listen to us. They care more about our actions than they care about our words. So it's so important for this system to understand that, yes, we do have to hold each other accountable for the actions that we commit, but we need to steer away from a system that's based on retribution and an eye for an eye. We need to focus on a system that's more about making individuals whole, because there is no positive impact of taking me away from my family and putting me away in a dungeon for years for my family. You take away the breadwinner, you take away the role model, and then you create this negative perception that children look at like, that's the bad guy, that's dad, he did something wrong, oh no. Instead of looking at a system where like dad can be utilized to heal the community that he harmed. Like, for example, like when I went to go commit some residential burglaries, instead of throwing me a dungeon, you could have like had me sit down with that family and discuss my addiction and found a way for us to meet into a mutual agreement. For example, like circles and restorative justice, where we would have understood the damage that I caused, held me accountable, but also facilitate some healing, right? Our system of incarceration has never really been focused on healing. I'm very glad that in the last maybe 4 to 5 years, we've seen a lot more healing and we're seeing a lot more classes focused on the importance of family relationships and addressing generational trauma. But for a long time, our system wasn't designed that way, right? And we kept seeing incarceration rates go up and up and up, and we never really saw a solution till now. We're starting to see some of those recidivism rates go down a little tiny bit because we're understanding how the ripple effect of incarceration not only damages one individual, it damages a family, but it damages a community. So it's really important for us to promote the goals of healing and rehabilitation and resilience. I couldn't say better than John did, like doing drugs in the family was normal. But when I teach my son that what I did was wrong and that doing drugs was not the best thing and that I didn't cope with my traumas from the military the right way and going through therapy and being able to explain to him through family therapy, I'm breaking that chain. And that's what we have to do. And that's what organizations like CRJW does. Like my wife said, which I'm so privileged that she spoke, it's like we made each other see us as humans. Because when I went into prison, Manuel Gomez was out the window. It was AU 5009. I became a number. We have to remove ourselves from that. It's super, super important. And it's simple. Policymakers and organizations need to see us as humans. When you see us as humans, you treat us differently, instinctively and automatically. And I'm so thankful that CRJW has understood that for the past 2 decades. And I'll pass it on to Liz.
Thank you, Manny. Making it very difficult for me to follow that, but I'll do my best. So, and thank you for bringing up the fact. I wanted to mention this earlier. I'll touch on this very quickly. That is a very common theme that we hear and we see in our surveys and with our qualitative and quantitative data and just being in the visiting room, those moments that we have with our incarcerated loved ones, oftentimes people, our incarcerated loved ones will literally approach me and will thank me, will literally thank me, and the organization, of course, it's not me, it's CRJW, but they'll thank me for making this connection happen for them. But also, and this is the one that hurts, and I'm sorry if I get emo here, I'm a little emotional, but they thank us for treating them like humans. That's really hard. Because treating someone like a human being is free, right? It's a free thing that you can do here. It doesn't cost anything. It takes effort to not treat someone right? It takes little effort. So the fact that this is a very common comment that we hear and we see tells me that it's of course, a standardized and normalized sentiment among our incarcerated loved ones, right? So with that, it's important, and again, I'll echo what Manny said, is it's important for everyone who is involved, even as a volunteer, as a supporter, as a stakeholder, as staff from CDCR or correctional staff, whatever it is, on just the basic level, treat people right. Just have that humanity. There's just this challenge that we tend to have, right? But it's so impactful when you tell someone, when you dehumanize someone over and over and over, they believe it. That's it. So I had more to say, but Manny covered a lot. What I will say for individuals is make sure, we're now in a time where we are finally seeing some shift, some changes with our policies, and we have the legislature supporting a lot of the work that we do now, right? All these changes, institutions are shutting down. We want to make, we're really focusing on the rehabilitation aspect of CDCR, right? And we're making it seems like we're making a much better effort, right? And I say much better loosely, but there is an effort, and this is an opportunity for all of us to come together and keep pushing that and stay on that momentum and just keep pushing that change forward. So for organizations, and I'll speak on, for us as well, we need to do better. And again, I'll speak on behalf of CRJW to work closely with one another. Like organizations, get mental health facilities involved, because this is very critical within our system impacted communities. I say it over and over and over for a reason. It's necessary, it's needed. For the policy makers, right? Engage the system impacted community. Talk to the families. What do they really need? Is it to throw money into the institutions? Is it support? What is it that's necessary so we can cater to our families and help them, right? And for individuals, again, I'll just touch on this, is stay engaged, stay involved in what you believe in. If you really want to make a change and an impact in the criminal justice realm, then stay involved. One thing that really matters here is voting. That's one thing that we can respond to. Make sure if you are unable to vote, then get other people involved. Learn how to register people to vote, register folks, get your family involved, because at the end of the day, we can have opinions all day, but realistically, it's when we go out and we vote and we make these changes in our legislature and policies and so on. Find out who your representative is. You can go on, find my representative, find your assembly member, find your state senator within your area. All you have to do is plug in your address and get that information, engage these folks and let them know that they need to support a particular bill. Stay on top of what policies, acts, and bills are out there that will support our system impacted community. But with that said, it's right now is a good opportunity for all of us to work together, work closely together, and listen to one another, so we can continue this momentum and keep making these changes. But with that said, I'll leave it at that, because I can go on for another hour here. But thank you so much, Manny. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Mary, if you could share how have visits changed in the last years your loved one has been in prison?
Yes. It's been a while. She's been there, like I said, 18 years, and pretty much 15 of those are in the penitentiary. In Chowchilla, she just recently got moved to CIW, which is a real blessing for our family. But when we started out, like I said, the kids were real little, and the bus driver would help me get the kids on the bus. I mean, there has been so much support from this organization to make just the littlest things, me with 2 little ones and all my bags to make sure they had everything, and just to make sure that the visit was going to go great. It was a long trip, so I had to make sure that they had activities, for pretty much on the way back, because they slept on the way there, but because it was a 5-hour drive each way, and that's pretty hard to keep a 3 and 4-year-old busy and contained for that long and staying seated. But we did it, and we were excited. But there's the thing that really has been impressed recently was when they gave us the free phone calls, and it has been a game changer for our family. The kids are talking more to their mom, and she'll call, I don't want to get in trouble, but she'll call like right after the other, so that we can actually have a conversation, because you cannot have a conversation in 15 minutes. There is just no way. Nothing is going to get accomplished. When there's, she's helped them with their homework. She's helped them with resumes. She's helped them with, my granddaughter was telling her about her job interview yesterday. And so that she was really excited about that. And so she's able to be more of a part of their lives because of these free phone calls, where we're not just getting the 15 minutes and it's like, okay, we get 2 a week, kids, sorry, so let's split it up. Now we can, sometimes she calls a lot, which is good, but it's still, it's making things different. She has each one of their phones now, so it's just they're building their own relationships even more, because they can just talk to each other without me having to worry about it, and making sure that it's done and we have the money, and all the rules and everything. And the videos, we are kind of video hogs. I admit that. We do that weekly, and we are going to miss it when it stops. I think it stops next month, and so we will be doing it every week until it stops, and we just have a great time. Sometimes my grandson is sleepy in the beginning because we get an earlier one, and he's 18 and he likes his sleep, but it's just she sees that's just part of life. And so we're able to have those relationships, even though they are via phone or via video, because of the relationships that we were able to build by going once a month to get on the bus and get that groundwork done. And one thing that I want to say is honesty with your kids is the best policy. Since we started so young with the kids in this situation, we were going to mommy's house. Well, mommy's house has funny fences. Yes, and that's where, mommy lived. And then we were sitting, this is a little personal, but I'm gonna share it anyway. We, I guess my grandkids, they were probably 9 and 10, and they realized, we were sitting at the table at our visit, and my daughter mentioned that she was in prison. Just the word prison came up, because we didn't really bring that up. We were just going to see mommy. Maybe they were a little bit younger, but they both stopped their writing that they were doing, and they looked up, and my grandson goes, "Mom, you're in prison?" Just like it was just their normal. And so it broke my heart, but then it was such a good reality was that, yes, crap, she's in prison, but it was okay. It was a normal, wonderful visit that we were able to have all these years, and they didn't even realize it was prison. And so that speaks volumes for the program, for the staff, that made it not feel so like a prison. And I'm just very, very thankful that we have that. And it's been, like I said, it's been their whole lives that this situation. So that might make a difference where they didn't know any different. But it's just been an amazing program, and I'm really thankful for this program. And the free phone calls are pretty awesome too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for sharing. In conclusion, we want to extend our sincerest gratitude to all the panelists and moderators for participating in this webinar between AKD and the Center for Restorative Justice Works. Your insights and experiences have contributed to a rich and informative discussion on the importance of restorative justice in our communities and the impact it has on families. As we conclude this webinar, we want to remind everyone of the vital work that the Center for Restorative Justice Works is doing to empower and restore individuals and families impacted by the criminal justice system. We encourage all participants to support their mission by making a donation through the link provided in the chat. Once again, we thank everyone, our esteemed panelists, our moderators, for their time and expertise, and we look forward to continued collaborations in promoting restorative justice in our communities and ensuring that families impacted by the criminal justice system receive the support and resources they need to heal and thrive. I'd like to pass it on to Manny.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you so much for your time. I can't say that enough. I want to just make sure and emphasize that while we're not a political organization, through some of the testimony in this webinar, we've seen the importance of ensuring that those that are incarcerated are treated as humans. We have witnessed firsthand the profound impact of legislative changes, for example, the free phone calls, on improving the quality of visits and fostering a more receptive environment within prisons. We firmly believe in the significance and transformative power of visits, as they have the potential to eradicate generational trauma and alleviate the collateral consequences of incarceration. Our voices are crucial in supporting legislation that recognizes the importance of visits and seeks to restore humanity to those behind bars. John and myself are examples of the restoration of humanity in this webinar. Today was a phenomenal day for me. I submitted my petition for expungement through SB 731. While in the courthouse asking for that expungement, I get an email that I got a job with the Veterans Affairs. And we joked earlier before this call, but it's like, going from being incarcerated in the feds to now working for the feds. But what's important about that is the fact that society is allowing us to have opportunities. And this happens through those legislative changes. I, with the criminal record, can now work for the Veterans Affairs and have an opportunity to restore my life, have a better job so I can support my family and improve their quality of life. So it's really important, like Liz said, to vote, to be that voice, especially for those loved ones who don't have voices while they're incarcerated. I want to make sure that we understand how crucial our voices are in supporting legislation that really seek to improve the humanity of those behind bars. We openly endorse 2 bills, and I want to make sure and emphasize that we are not a political organization, but we understand that sometimes pieces of legislation need support. So we are supporting AB 958, which makes visitation a right. And that sounds crazy, but to think about the fact that we need legislation to make visitation a right. Right now, for those incarcerated, if they get in trouble, they lose that right to visit. That should not be a punishment in prison. The ability for you to see your family, your children, and your loved ones should not be something that should be taken away. And that bill aims to establish visitation as a fundamental right for incarcerated individuals. We also are supporting AB 1226, proximity bill. And this bill advocates for reducing the physical distance between correctional facilities. Mary gave us an excellent example that now her loved one is now in CRJW, which is a facility that is within proximity, and it's feasible for her to visit her loved one within a few hours. My spouse, if she would have gone to Folsom, would have had to drive over 9 hours with 2 little ones to get to see me in Folsom, when there are prisons here close to Los Angeles that are within 2 to 3 hours. It's so important for us to support these bills and endorse them. I want to reiterate that we are not a political organization. We only endorse these bills. Lastly, I want to thank Manuel Arevalo for being a phenomenal and fantastic moderator for this event. We thank all of you. Have a wonderful weekend, and we truly appreciate your time today. That's it.